Hello. I wanted to come just with a little inspiration that dawned upon me recently, and it was something that I was thinking, and I was thinking about um, some experiences that I've had. Now I live in an area that's not too far away from. I was I was born in the north, and then I moved to the southwest for elementary school, and then I came back to the north around middle school, and I've lived a greater part of my life within maybe a few miles of where I had migrated back to when I came back as a middle schooler. And I was thinking like when I was a middle schooler, I had been like from I had been from a real if anyone was alive to remember the '90s or knows about the '90s, basketball was like really it was like a movement kind of in around the world, and a lot of people have had really beautiful experiences around basketball, both playing it and enjoying it, but then also the experiences that come from basketball, like whether that's like families in the park, little kids playing and stuff. Being at a park they might not have been if they didn't have a sibling playing basketball or something like that. So it's really kind of unique to think about what basketball means and has meant. But when I came to the back to the north, I had been really about basketball at a young age, and there were some really great players that were for some reason located right where I came back to, and there was like a couple of players that they went on to be like state class players, and then like have collegiate careers at a high level of collegiate playing. But I was thinking like, and some of them, they had. I'm not saying I was as good as or better than them, but they at least had a respect for how I played, and I had respect for how they played. But I was thinking about like some of the experiences I had with them. Like one friend was like we had been like at a tryout for like a traveling basketball team, and we used to play this game. If anyone's from back in the day can remember the game 21, where it's kind of like it's like a group. It's like a way of playing group basketball, but it's every man for himself. So it's kind of like an individual sport, but yet you're playing with many people. And there would come a point where like if you made a shot playing against other people, then you get a chance to shoot free throws after that, and you keep going until you miss a free throw. And so I was racking up a bunch of free throws up, and one of this guy who he used to he went on to be an incredible player at all middle school, high school, and college level. And he was talking to me in middle school after we had met in between elementary and middle school at one of these tryouts, and he was like, "Man, I remember you would not stop hitting those free throws, man." And he was saying it like he had been frustrated because he had to sit there and watch me because he had his hand tied behind his back while shooting free throws, but he was also saying it as like respect. And I was thinking like what I must have appeared like to him, like not knowing me, because we really come from different experiences and backgrounds. Him being from the north, me being from the south, but then just our experiences coming into reality as human beings, like all the way from infancy, toddler, the first things you can remember are yet very. We probably would have had two very different experiences, being different human beings in a certain way. You actually can't fathom the experience of another person because it really is beyond you. But then there would be certain similarities and overlapping, like this movement of basketball that had swept the world, and then what basketball means, and probably we probably were steeped in some of the same highlights, some of the same experiences practicing alone at night and so forth. But I was thinking about like what I must have really appeared like to that person who, in a certain way, I as a human being and as a being am beyond his experience in the same him of me. But what does he really see when he looks at me? And it probably would be like a somewhat athletic, young male. It wouldn't be. Sometimes you may or may not tell what ethnic heritage a person is from, but you have certain perceptions about a person. And a lot of times, like really pretty. I think maybe all people have different hang-ups about their personal heritage, and then we also have very just ugly reflexes and reactions to other people and how they appear. But when you really look at someone, you're really seeing a lot. When you look at a person, you're actually seeing their entire existence and heritage when you look at a person. and what that actually means. And this I probably overquote the author Arthur Avalon, but he says that in if you were to take so he looks at he has wrote about all things animate and inanimate being conscious on some level, that including all matter, but then your things that are beyond matter, like I've said in other videos, like radioactivity and stuff, and I can't really speak to any of that. But what he says is that in his estimation, there has never been a cessation in consciousness, and that's of the universe, but that's also us as beings. That there has he said, if you take a human lifespan from the cradle to the grave, but perhaps before the cradle and yet maybe beyond the grave, if I don't sound pretentious with that. Whether we are sleeping, waking, dreaming, drunk, any ecstasy, anything, we're still yet conscious through all of this. So in a certain sense, our consciousness has never ceased. Like even maybe some people have had an experience blacking out, around alcohol or drugs, and as dire as that is, and as scary as that is to actually think about what you've been through if you have actually blacked out before. On a certain sense, you didn't lose consciousness because you wouldn't be with us anymore. You wouldn't have been able to sustain your heartbeat and your respiration. So on a certain level, you were conscious through that, as daunting and maybe scary as that would be to contemplate. But just the fact that we have been conscious this entire existence. But I would say that we as a being, if we are alive now, so we can safely say that the Big Bang or whatever creation is, it didn't just simply take place when we ourselves were conceived and came into this life. There had been a continuum of existences in what would be considered ancestors, much of which we can't fathom what they would have looked like going back more than a couple of generations. And the YouTuber named Morris Brooklyn, who has a lot of interesting commentary, he pointed out in one of his videos that a lot of times we hear about the ancestors, and in the some of the African communities where that I think that term was maybe appropriated from, in saying the ancestors. They only looked at the ancestors as about maybe 1, 2, or 3 generations back of the paternal ancestors. That's what the ancestors are when they're referring to the ancestors. In a certain sense, that's all we can really maybe remember or even fathom of our own experiences. It's so daunting, broad, and incredible to think about how far back our lineage goes. And then on top of that, we may be related to some of the same people more than once, because as though we think of our heritage as a tree branching out, some of those branches yet come back and intermingle, so that many of the people that we encounter on a daily basis, on some sense, on a grandiose sense, but not negligible in terms of how exact and profound the universe is, we are related to these people in probably more than once along different intersecting lines of our heritage. And then we may even be related to ourselves more than once along our line of heritage, in having maybe dual and then returning lines along that branch. But all I want to say is that maybe consider that you yourself as a being and us as beings are, when people are looking at us and they're saying that, oh, this is his heritage, like his ancestors were of this line. No, he is of that line. That is who he is. That is what he is. That is what he has always been and still is. So in a sense that when a person's looking at you, they're seeing things about they can appreciate certain things about your lineage and your heritage looking at you, but maybe neither you nor them realize that what they're actually seeing is who you actually are on your different planes of who you are. That could be in a linear fashion. We would think of that as having occurred this many generations back or that many generations back, but our notion of time is really kind of quite arbitrary, because without a reference, time has no meaning without a reference. Like we say, like how many days are in a week. So we say there's 7. Okay, so we're in this year, and there's this many months in a year, and there's this many weeks in a month, and there's this many days in a week, and there's this many hours in a day. But what does that mean? You're referring to how many times the Earth has spun a circle and then also rotated the sun. But if you were witnessing this to occur outside of the gravitation or the orbit of either of those stations, I would imagine you would assume you would feel as though you were suspended in eternity, and you would really appreciate what it is to exist in that our references for time. Now the universe does, and I'm getting a little bit off track with this and beyond my real scope of being able to articulate this, but we do exist within cycles, and so that can be appreciated and that can be anticipated for and adjusted for, and so we really do experience things as though we are within time, and that's very that's so I'm not saying we don't experience the sensation of time or that it's not valid, but I'm just saying that in a greater sense, you wouldn't be completely absurd to say that that there's no essential difference of any 2 points that we would consider within linear time on a grand scale without a reference. So in that sense, maybe you yourself have existed and still exist on many planes of existence that maybe at one point manifest, then at one point unmanifest. Arthur Avalon also says that the universe itself comes back and forth into manifestation and then more of a causal level, where what we experience, we experience more the effect of something, but there's a deeper cause that happens before that. He says that there's the spiritual or there's the spiritual plane where I can't speak towards the spiritual plane, and then there's the cosmic plane, which would be the motions of the universe, both grand and small, all the way from celestial bodies to atomic phenomena would be the cosmic, and then there's the terrestrial, which would be of the earth or what we have manifest in our mundane day-to-day experience, and that what you experience day-to-day had actually already had already took form on the cosmic plane, but then before that on the spiritual plane. But yet in all three of these planes, time is still relative and almost absolute. So you could, on a certain sense, say that you have always and still always exist on all these planes. And all this, whatever does exist, it simply exists, and then it moves in and out of manifestation, and then a more sublime or unmanifest or like primordial level, but yet it still exists at both the primordial level and the manifest level as we do on a certain. And one could, I'm putting forward just to say that maybe we ourselves actually are much more profound, deep, and even I would say transcending than we would give ourselves credit or one another credit for, and that's what people are actually perceiving and taking in when they look at us and maybe write us off as terms of heritage or put different perceptions on us. Yet they do see some characteristics of us that have been fashioned over great periods of evolution and that are also related to the experiences of others that come from similar experiences, backgrounds, and heritage, lineage, so forth. But just to say that maybe we actually are much more profound and even more ancient than we might think. So maybe when you're existing, or when you're looking at another person, maybe this is actually a much deeper and more abiding being that you're taking in, and that's what you think you're seeing as their ancestry or their heritage, but it's actually them. And they have been here, they are here, and they will still be here, as a great athletic trainer once told me. And just to think that we are maybe more, we are deeper, more profound, and even in a certain sense more delicate, because if we've existed this long and we made it to this form and life has never ceased to exist and consciousness has never ceased to exist, yet we're here and we're still mortal, that shows you how precious life is and this opportunity to exist and this human body is. And so it's like if you had someone who was like, there used to be this show called The Highlander, and he was like he was like a near immortal. So he lived on different timelines and expanses of experience, which one could say we are the same as human beings if you on a certain level. Yet if he had been decapitated, that would actually cease his existence. So he was both very ancient and enduring, yet also mortal and vulnerable on that sense. And I want to say that maybe we as human beings actually are the same way, and that's what you're taking in with another human being. And maybe that can be a way to appreciate your own life and the life of other people's with respect, and have love and kindness for one another. So I offer this with peace, and I encourage you in anything you're into. And if you haven't received a flower lately, I offer you a flower.